The chandeliers sparkled like diamonds, casting a golden glow over the pristine marble floors. Rows of glass shelves displayed luxury handbags, each carrying a price tag that could feed a family for months. Soft classical music played in the background as well-dressed customers strolled through, their expensive perfumes lingering in the air. Maya Carter stepped inside, shaking off the slight chill of the evening. Her heels clicked softly as she walked past a velvet rope, her eyes scanning the boutique's collection. She wasn't here to steal. She wasn't even here to cause trouble. She was just here to look, to admire the kind of life that always seemed just out of reach. She adjusted her coat, aware of the sudden shift in the room. It was subtle but unmistakable. Conversations lowered. Eyes flicked toward her. The wealthy patrons barely acknowledged her presence, but the store employees? They noticed. Their polite smiles stiffened. Their movements became slower, more calculated. Behind the sleek black marble counter, the store manager, Ethan Blake, lifted his gaze from a stack of receipts. He was a man in his late 40s, sharp-featured, with slicked-back blonde hair that never seemed out of place. His suit was tailored to perfection, his shoes polished until they gleamed. The moment he spotted Maya, his expression darkened. She didn't belong here. Ethan subtly nudged the security guard near the entrance. A burly man in a navy blue blazer nodded, shifting his stance. He didn't approach just yet. Instead, he waited, watching. Maya, oblivious to the growing tension, stopped in front of a display case. Her fingers lightly traced the air above a leather handbag, admiring its craftsmanship. It was beautiful. Smooth black leather with delicate gold accents. The kind of bag that women carried with pride, effortlessly announcing their wealth. Before she could even consider checking the price, a voice sliced through the air. "Can I help you?" She looked up. A saleswoman stood before her, smiling, but there was no warmth in it, just forced politeness. Maya returned the smile. "Just looking, thank you." The woman hesitated, then gave a slight nod before stepping away. But she didn't go far. None of them did. Maya could feel it now, eyes tracking her every movement, silent judgments pressing down on her like a weight. She inhaled slowly. Don't let it get to you. Reaching out, she gently lifted the handbag from its display. The leather was smooth beneath her fingertips. She turned it slightly, admiring the craftsmanship. That's when it happened. A heavy hand clamped around her wrist. The shock made her gasp. She turned sharply, finding herself face to face with the security guard. His grip was firm, unrelenting. "Put it down," he ordered. His voice was low but carried an undeniable authority. Maya blinked, confusion washing over her. "Excuse me?" Ethan Blake appeared beside them, arms crossed over his chest. His lips curled into a smirk, his blue eyes filled with quiet disdain. "We don't tolerate shoplifters," he said smoothly. A stunned silence fell over the store. Nearby customers paused, some exchanging glances, others pretending not to notice. A few took out their phones, recording the scene. Maya's heart pounded. "I wasn't stealing anything." Ethan chuckled. "Right. You expect me to believe that?" He turned to the security guard. "Check her bag." Maya pulled back, her voice rising. "You have no right to—" The security guard yanked her purse from her shoulder, flipping it open. Lipstick, keys, a wallet, nothing suspicious. Still, he shook his head, unimpressed, before tossing it onto the counter. Maya's face burned. Her hands trembled as she reached for her purse. "You can't just accuse people like this," she said, her voice unsteady but firm. "I didn't do anything wrong." Ethan let out a slow, exaggerated sigh. "You people are all the same, always playing the victim." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Just admit it. You came in here hoping no one would notice, figured you could slip something into your bag and walk right out, but you got caught." Maya clenched her jaw. The humiliation burned in her chest. "I don't steal," she said, enunciating every word. Ethan smirked again. "Then you won't mind leaving?" She hesitated. "If you don't leave now," he continued, "I'll call the police. And trust me, they won't be as patient as we are." A cold chill ran through her. She knew how these situations played out. A black woman accused of theft? The police wouldn't ask questions. They wouldn't listen. They'd throw her in cuffs, drag her out in front of all these people, and by the time she proved her innocence, if she even could, it wouldn't matter. Her hands balled into fists. She wanted to fight back. She wanted to scream, but what good would it do? With a deep breath, she turned on her heel and walked toward the door. As she stepped outside, the first drop of rain hit her cheek. Then another. Within seconds, the sky opened up, drenching her in icy water. She stood there, motionless, her breath shallow. The humiliation, the anger, the helplessness. It all swirled inside her, a storm of emotions raging just beneath the surface. Behind her, inside the store, Ethan Blake watched with satisfaction. The security guard returned to his post. The customers went back to their shopping, the incident already forgotten. But outside, in a sleek black car parked across the street, a man watched through the windshield. He had seen everything. His fingers tapped slowly against the steering wheel, his expression unreadable. None. The rain blurred the city lights around him, but his focus remained sharp. This wasn't over. The rain poured relentlessly, drenching Maya as she stood on the sidewalk, frozen in place. The humiliation from the luxury store burned through her like acid. But it wasn't just about tonight. It was about every moment before this, every whisper, every lingering glance, every time someone questioned whether she truly belonged. With a deep breath, she forced herself to move. She stepped off the curb, hailing a cab with a quick flick of her wrist. The driver barely glanced at her before nodding, and she slid into the back seat, wrapping her damp coat tightly around her. As the car pulled into traffic, Maya leaned her head against the window, watching the city lights blur. She wanted to forget what happened. She wanted to pretend it didn't matter. But it did. It always did. Flashback. A little girl stood in front of a small diner, her tiny fingers wrapped around her father's hand. It was a cold evening, the kind where warmth should have come from inside, where people sat together, ate together, laughed together. But not for them. Maya's father, Charles Carter, had stepped inside, his voice steady but polite. "A table for 3, please." The waitress behind the counter barely looked at him. Her gum popped between her teeth as she wiped down an already clean surface. "We're full." Maya peered past her. There were empty booths, lots of them. Her mother, Olivia, squeezed her shoulder gently. "We can go somewhere else, sweetheart," she whispered. Charles inhaled, his jaw tightening. "We just want to eat, that's all." The waitress popped her gum again. "Not here, you won't." Maya's little heart clenched, though she didn't fully understand why. Her father stared at the woman, his hands curling into fists at his sides. Then, without another word, he turned and led them away. Maya looked back one last time, memorizing the coldness in the woman's eyes, the way the other customers watched, but said nothing. That was the first time Maya realized some places weren't meant for people like her. Present day. Maya exhaled sharply, shaking the memory from her mind, as the cab pulled up in front of her apartment building. She paid the driver, then stepped onto the wet pavement, her heels clicking against the sidewalk. As she reached for her keys, she felt it. A presence. Someone was watching her. She turned, scanning the street. Her eyes landed on the sleek black car parked just a few feet away. The engine was running, and through the rain-speckled windshield she could make out the silhouette of a man sitting inside. He didn't move, didn't look away. Maya's grip on her keys tightened. Then, as if deciding something, the car's headlights flicked on. It pulled away smoothly, disappearing into the night. She frowned, a strange unease settling in her chest. Elsewhere, in a high-rise office, Richard Sterling placed his phone down on his desk, his expression unreadable. The video from the luxury store played on his screen, captured by an onlooker. He watched as security grabbed Maya, watched as Ethan Blake humiliated her, watched as she stood in the rain, utterly defeated. His fingers tapped lightly against the desk. It had been years since he last saw Maya Carter. She had changed, grown into the woman he always believed she would become. But the fire in her eyes, the resilience in her stance, that was the same little girl from all those years ago. The little girl who had once been his entire world. Richard leaned back in his chair, the city skyline stretching before him through floor-to-ceiling windows. Ethan Blake had made a mistake. A grave mistake. Meanwhile, in a private group chat, Ethan, LMAO, did you guys see her face when I told her to leave? Classic. Amy, sales associate. I thought she was going to cry. Marcus, security. Man, I was waiting for her to pull the race card. Like we made her come in looking suspicious? Ethan, exactly. These people think they can just walk in anywhere and demand respect. I don't care if she was wearing a suit. She looked out of place. Amy, I looked her up. She's some lawyer, but not the type that matters. Ethan, figures, she's nobody. The storm was coming. Maya woke up to the sound of her phone vibrating nonstop. She groggily reached for it, her mind still clouded by the events of last night. But as soon as she unlocked the screen, her sleep vanished. Her notifications were flooded, texts, emails, missed calls. And then she saw it. The video. The grainy footage, shaky from an onlooker's phone, captured the exact moment she was grabbed by security, accused of theft, and thrown out into the rain. Her face, stunned and humiliated, was now plastered across social media. And the world had something to say about it. #boycott Sterling Lux. Trending #1. Maya scrolled through the posts, her heart pounding. Disgusting racism. Imagine treating a woman like this just because she's black. Boycott the store immediately. That manager, Ethan Blake, needs to be fired. No apology is enough. We see you, Maya Carter. We stand with you. Oh, y'all messed up bad. This ain't just a random woman. Maya Carter is one of the top civil rights attorneys in the country. Buckle up. Her breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just outrage. This was a movement. She exhaled sharply, a mixture of anger and something unfamiliar bubbling inside her. Power. But across town, Ethan Blake saw the same posts and laughed. Ethan leaned back in his plush office chair, scrolling through Twitter with an amused smirk. People will be mad for a few days. Then they'll move on, he scoffed, tossing his phone onto the desk. Amy, the sales associate from last night, bit her lip. Are you sure? It's getting bigger. Ethan rolled his eyes. Oh, please, we cater to the rich. They don't care about internet drama. But then a new notification popped up on his screen. Richard Sterling, at Real Sterling CEO, 10:04. AM, I have spent years shopping at Sterling Lux. After what I saw yesterday, I will never step foot in that store again. Silence fell over the office. Amy's eyes widened. Wait, that Richard Sterling? Ethan grabbed his phone, rereading the tweet, his face turning pale. Richard Sterling wasn't just any rich client. He was the client, billionaire, CEO, a man whose word mattered. And the worst part? His tweet was spreading like wildfire. It started small, one or two celebrities chiming in. If Richard Sterling is boycotting, so am I. Actor Jeremy Cole. I've spent thousands at Sterling Lux, but after seeing how they treated Maya Carter, I'm out. Fashion icon Elise Monet. And then, like dominoes, they all started falling. Big-name influencers posted videos calling out the racism. High-profile clients pulled their accounts. Within hours, Sterling Lux's stock value dropped by 6%. The corporate executives panicked. Meetings were scheduled. PR teams scrambled to control the firestorm. And finally, at noon, Sterling Lux released a public apology. Sterling Lux Statement, 12:30 p.m. We regret the unfortunate incident at our flagship store. It was a misunderstanding, and we are committed to diversity and inclusion. The reaction? Disastrous. Misunderstanding? She was thrown out in the rain. You're only sorry because you got caught. Where's Ethan Blake's resignation? Pathetic. Boycott continues. But inside the Sterling Lux office, Ethan was still in denial. They're overreacting, he muttered, pacing his office. We just need to wait it out. Amy gave him a nervous glance. Ethan, this isn't dying down. Maybe we should... No, that woman started this mess. She played the victim. His jaw clenched. I'm not apologizing for doing my job. But what Ethan didn't know, Maya wasn't done yet. Maya sat in the brightly lit studio, microphone clipped to her blazer. The host, a well-known journalist, leaned forward. Maya, millions have seen the video, but this isn't just about you, is it? She took a deep breath. No, it's not. This happens every day to black customers in luxury stores. They're followed, ignored, accused, simply for existing in spaces they have every right to be in. The screen behind them changed, displaying cold, hard numbers. 77% of black shoppers report being unfairly watched in high-end stores. 6. 2% say they've been denied service for no reason. 1 in 3 have been falsely accused of theft. Maya turned to the camera, her voice steady. Sterling Lux isn't an isolated case. This is a pattern, and it needs to end. The interview went viral instantly. Talk shows discussed it. Celebrities amplified it. Even politicians weighed in. Sterling Lux was drowning in backlash. Ethan, furious, refused to go down without a fight. She wants to destroy my career? Fine. Let's see how she likes it. He made a call. I need dirt on Maya Carter, whatever you can find. The next morning, tabloids ran the headline, Who really is Maya Carter, a lawyer with a troubling past? The article was filled with lies, twisting old lawsuits, claiming she'd fabricated cases, implying she was only seeking fame. The damage was immediate. Social media turned divisive. I supported her, but now I'm not sure. Why is she only speaking out now? Maybe she's just in it for money. These activists always have an agenda. Maya felt the shift, the betrayal, the doubt. She turned off her phone, staring at the wall. Was this a losing battle? A knock at her door. Ed? She opened it to find Richard Sterling. You're a hard woman to track down, he said, offering a small smile. Maya hesitated. Why are you here? He sighed, stepping inside. Because I owe you. She frowned. Owe me? Richard sat down, clasping his hands. Your father, Daniel Carter. He helped me when no one else would. Maya stiffened. My father? Richard nodded. Years ago, I was a lost kid. I got into some trouble. Stupid, reckless. Your father was a lawyer, barely knew me, but he fought for me anyway. Saved my future. Maya's throat tightened. She remembered her father's tireless work to help the unheard. Why are you telling me this? She whispered. Richard met her gaze. Because now I want to help you. A spark of renewed determination lit in her chest. She wasn't done yet. She was just getting started. Maya's phone buzzed. Urgent. You've been served. She froze. A thick envelope was slid under her door. Hands shaking, she tore it open. Sterling Lux versus Maya Carter. Defamation damages. They were suing her for $10 million. A press conference was already happening outside the store. Ethan, standing smugly in front of flashing cameras, declared, We will not tolerate false accusations that damage our reputation. Maya Carter has launched an unjust attack on this business, and we will pursue legal action to the fullest extent. Maya's stomach twisted. This wasn't about justice. It was meant to silence her. Her lawyer, Vanessa, shook her head as she scanned the paperwork. "They're throwing the biggest legal team in the country at you. They want to bury you in court fees until you give up." Maya clenched her fists. She'd fought tough battles before, but this was war. The harassment escalated. Hate messages flooded her inbox. "You're ruining innocent people's lives." "Lying be asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Hope you rot in jail." "Go back to where you came from." Strangers followed her in public, whispering, laughing. Her office received anonymous threats. One night she heard footsteps outside her apartment. Her heart pounded as she peeked through the peephole. A shadowy figure stood there, watching, waiting. She backed away, locking every door. For the first time, Maya felt afraid. Then an email arrived. Subject: the truth about Sterling Lux. She hesitated before opening it. Inside were hundreds of leaked documents. Old store policies, memos, internal emails. One message, sent from Ethan himself, made her blood boil. "Make sure those customers don't feel too comfortable in our store." Another email from a senior executive. "We can't outright refuse them, but we can make the experience unpleasant enough that they don't return." It was proof. Proof of systemic racism from the inside. But then Maya scrolled further and found something even worse. Buried in financial reports, she saw strange transactions. Millions of dollars flowing through accounts that didn't make sense. And then one file, flagged by an anonymous source. Sterling Lux's parent company was laundering money. Illegal offshore transfers, shell companies, ties to crime syndicates. Maya's hands trembled. This wasn't just a racist luxury store. This was a criminal empire. And now she had the power to destroy them. The next morning, the world woke up to chaos. Every major news channel ran the same explosive headline: "Luxury retail giant exposed racism, corruption, money laundering scandal. Uncovered." Maya's face was everywhere, on TV screens, websites, social media. CNN, BBC, the New York Times. She sat in a live interview, staring directly into the camera. "This isn't just about me. This is about every black customer who has been followed, humiliated, or treated like a criminal just for existing." And the worst part, they weren't just discriminating. They were committing crimes at the highest level. Her voice was strong, her words unshakable. The public erupted. The #hash, shut down Sterling Lux, trended worldwide. Protests broke out in front of their flagship store. Oh! Celebrities, politicians, and activists demanded action. And behind the scenes, the company was crumbling. Inside Sterling Lux headquarters, panic reigned. The CEO stormed into Ethan's office, slamming a stack of papers onto his desk. "You arrogant fool! We could have controlled this until you made her a national symbol." Ethan's smirk finally vanished. He turned on the news, watching as the company's stock plummeted. Yeah, billions in losses. Major investors pulled out. Big brands cut ties. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow. This couldn't be happening. Then his phone rang. "HR. You need to come to the boardroom, now." Ethan stepped inside, but instead of a meeting, there were security guards. The CEO's voice was ice cold. "You're fired, effective immediately." Ethan laughed nervously. "You can't be serious." The CEO slid a folder across the table. Internal emails, his emails. "We've reviewed your messages. Your words are indefensible. The company will not go down because of you. We're handing you over to the authorities." Ethan's heart pounded. "You think I'm the only one involved? This whole place is rotten. You think you can pin this on me and walk away clean?" Security grabbed him. His fall was swift. By nightfall, headlines had his face plastered everywhere. ex-Sterling Lux manager, fired amid massive scandal. He went from powerful to powerless, from feared to forgotten. Maya wasn't done. The lawsuit she filed wasn't just about racism anymore. She went after everything. Fraud, discrimination, corruption. It became one of the biggest corporate lawsuits in history. Millions in damages. New laws proposed to combat racial bias in high-end retail. Her name became a symbol of justice. Weeks later, Maya stood in front of the same store where her nightmare began. But this time, she wasn't a customer. She was the owner. The parent company, desperate to cut losses, had sold the location. And the buyer? Richard Sterling. As the press swarmed, Richard stood beside her. Maya Carter represents everything this store failed to be: fair, just, and powerful. So today, I'm proud to announce that this space belongs to her. A brand new luxury boutique would rise from the ashes. One where everyone was treated with respect. The doors swung open to a new era. Maya had won, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever been silent. Maya stood at the entrance of the newly reopened boutique, the very place where she had once been humiliated. But now, she was in control. A sleek, gold-lettered sign above the entrance read, "Carter Kuo, Luxury Without Limits." The store's grand reopening had drawn a crowd, journalists, activists, and supporters who had followed her journey. But among the noise and flashing cameras, her eyes caught something familiar. A little black girl, around 10 years old, hesitated by the doorway, holding her mother's hand. Her small fingers clutched the strap of a worn-out purse. Her eyes darted around, filled with uncertainty. Maya saw herself in that girl. A memory surged forward. 10-year-old Maya standing outside a luxury store with her parents, watching as a white family was welcomed inside while they were ignored. She had been too afraid to step in, believing she didn't belong. That little girl was feeling the same thing now. Maya smiled. She took a step forward, kneeling slightly to meet the girl's eyes. "Welcome to Carter Company. Come on in. Take a look around." The girl's face lit up. Her mother squeezed Maya's hand, eyes shimmering with gratitude. For the first time, Maya felt she had changed something. Across the city, in a dimly lit dive bar, Ethan Blake sat slumped over a sticky counter. A cheap whiskey glass rested in his trembling hand, his once expensive suit now wrinkled and stained. The TV behind the bar flickered. Maya Carter's face filled the screen. From humiliation to ownership, how one woman changed the face of high-end retail forever. Ethan gritted his teeth. He had lost everything. The job, the power, the influence. No company would touch him. His name was poison. He downed the last of his drink, his fingers tightening around the glass. "This should have never happened," he muttered under his breath. Then his phone buzzed. A text message. "Unknown number. You think this is over?" Ethan's drunken haze vanished. His pulse spiked. He blinked at the screen. His hands turned clammy. What the hell? Before he could react, the screen cut to black.